The Patrick Netherton Show, 11:30 The Tiger. He's Rogers. I'm Patrick. Hope everyone is doing well. And we are pleased to welcome in a guy who is absolutely killing it over in Ruston. I've said a couple of times now on the air that I have not had better barbecue in the state of Louisiana than I did a couple of weekends ago when I got to travel to Ruston and finally visit Bad Wolf BBQ. And their pitmaster and proprietor, Andrew Caskey, joins us now. Andrew, what's up, man?
Hey, Patrick. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Happy to do it. Look, I'll tell it to your face. I told it to you when I saw you. I've been everywhere in Louisiana, but I've been to all of the most popular places. The what I consider the three best in New Orleans, the best here. I haven't really been to, I don't know what's in Monroe, to be honest with you, and not much in central Louisiana. But man, I think y'all have the best barbecue in the state of Louisiana right now. I really do.
Man, it's really appreciated.
Yeah, look, so give me some idea of how this all began. Where are you from? How did you get into barbecue? Why Ruston? Kind of walk us through your history.
So I'm from here, basically about 30 minutes from where I live now. Is where I've lived all my life except for traveling for a little bit of college. But I've been here the whole time. And basically what got me into barbecue was two things. First, my wife doesn't cook. So I got tired of eating peanut butter sandwiches for supper. And then next was I had that entrepreneurial spirit, and I really wanted to work for myself and, create a business and see how far I could take it. And just had that drive to do that. So I said, what better way than to open a food truck? So that's where we did it. Started small with the food truck. So, because I didn't have a clue about anything about working in a restaurant. I've always been oil filled my whole life. So I kind of got it on the side, started working it on the weekends until finally it took off to where I was able to do it full time.
So you're doing basically Central Texas style barbecue, which is much more beef reliant than necessarily pork reliant, like you might see in Louisiana or Mississippi and such. How did you? What are your influences? How did you decide on your recipes? Like, did you go make a sojourn through Texas to learn, or did you just kind of do it yourself and sort of figure it out on your own?
Well, I started out on my own, and then when I actually got a chance to go and try some Texas barbecue, that's when it really hit me, and I said, this is what I've been trying to do. So I saved up all my vacation that I could before I was going to leave my job and went all through Texas. Went over to Dallas. Went down to Austin. I planned to go to Houston, but there were so many places at that point in time that there was just not enough time within 2 weeks to be able to go hit everything as much as I could. But yeah, so I went around, networked, and ate as many places as I could, sometimes more than 3 in a day, just trying to research and see what these guys are doing. And it just really opened my eyes at that point in time, right when I was tipping over into going full time with barbecue, that this is the style that I really want to do.
It's interesting too, because I don't know if you know Blake Stoker up in Tennessee. He's a young kid that has opened a food truck and is doing Texas style barbecue, and he kind of did the same thing you did. He went through Texas and he met a lot of these pitmasters. The interesting thing to me, Andrew, is how open everyone is in talking about what they do. Pitmasters by and large will basically just walk you through the stuff that they do, and they'll share recipes and how they do things. I find it to be one of the more fascinating groups of people. Did you meet any resistance when you were going through and asking some of these guys for their tips and tricks, or were they all open for you?
No, absolutely no resistance at all. Everybody that I've talked to within the community has just been overwhelmingly helpful. And it has saved me a ton of trial and error. I can just pick up the phone, call somebody, say, hey, I've got this problem, trying to figure this out. And 10 times out of 10, they're going to help me out,
And that's amazing.
Couldn't be more grateful.
Who would you consider kind of your sort of mentors, so to speak? Who are the guys that you really look to, and when you do need to make that call, who are you picking up the phone for?
Oh, so I love talking to Brian Bingham, Russell Regals, some of the guys down at the Brotherton's, because they're running the same kind of pits that I am. So if usually I have any kind of technical issue or something like that, I know those guys are kind of on the same pits that I'm running, and kind of working through the same processes as I am. So if I have any issues, I can call them, and more than likely they've already encountered it, so they'll be able to help me through it.
So tell me about the reception then as you kind of got going in Ruston. You're kind of over at the railroad depot area, really downtown right now. But were you always there? Did you move around? What did it take for you to kind of get comfortable and then start to see the people responding to the food you're creating?
So, yeah, we started moving around, hopping around different towns back when I was working a full-time job and running the food trailer on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So we couldn't commit to a full-time location like we are now when that was happening. But we worked back and forth and moved, and when I finally went full-time with it, we parked the trailer over in Ruston, and that's where it stayed. But then we did encounter an issue where we actually started a second location, which was a brick and mortar location that was kind of a shared building with a seasonal crawfish business.
Mm-hmm.
And there was when I grew to where I needed larger pits that wouldn't fit in the trailer, I had to have a separate brick and mortar location, to be able to run the trailer.
Right.
So we started doing that, and we actually grew into 2 locations. But then when COVID hit, we decided to shut that down. So we got rid of the brick and mortar location. I actually built my own kitchen on my own property, and that's the base for the trailer now.
Yeah, and when I came over a couple of weekends ago, I know better, so I show up before you open because I don't want you to be out of anything when I get there, and I get there probably 10 to 11, something like that, and you've already got a good line formed, which is what you expect. That's what you get in Texas, but I'm curious, have you met with any sort of questions or resistance, because this is sort of a new thing for Louisiana, and that is waiting in line for barbecue? Have you gotten any resistance or anyone saying, well, I'm not going to sit here and wait in line for this, when that's very common in Texas? But have the people learned and maybe adapted to it here in Louisiana?
We have absolutely had people that have given us that feedback.
Yeah.
They do not like to wait in line over here. So that's something that's very different for this audience. Then there's a lot of consumer education that goes into explaining why there's a line and, what we do and why we may run out of things, because it's a foreign concept for a restaurant to just be sold out of anything at, all the way up till the minute they close.
Right.
So there's a lot of education that goes into that. And then also, we're working very hard to try to be able to mitigate those circumstances of being able to sell out of things. We want to be able to have enough stuff left over that we can actually repurpose as specials and do other things with, but still provide that quality of the same product that you came there for.
Well, and that's still to this day, no matter what place you own, Stephen over at Riverport, or you mentioned Brian Bingham at the Bodacious in Longview, no matter how long you've been there or how successful you are, the game is still kind of guessing or using your best guesstimate to determine how much food you're going to cook on any given day.
Oh, every day is a gamble, especially for us being a food truck with the weather conditions that are played heavily into it. And there's just really no rhyme or reason to it. I'd go through analytics, try to figure out, what is our busiest days. And one day we'll get slammed, and then the next day will be slow, a little bit slower. And it's just really hard to gauge exactly what to prepare. So most of our audience has been really accepting and understanding of why we run out of things, because we are trying to keep the quality as high as possible.
Absolutely. Talking to Andrew Caskey from Bad Wolf BBQ in Ruston. I'm curious also because, again, folks that live in Louisiana haven't necessarily grown up with brisket. Brisket is a very Texas, especially central. I mean, even East Texas doesn't necessarily serve great brisket unless you're at a couple of spots here and there. But, brisket is a very central Texas food. Do you find that people come in and they're ordering the pulled pork or ribs or whatever, and you kind of want to go, hey guys, you're missing one of the stars, one of the best meats you'll ever eat, or are people catching on to the fact that brisket is kind of at the heart of that Texas barbecue?
Oh, people absolutely love the brisket. We sell almost nothing but brisket. I wish we did sell more pulled pork, especially with the brisket prices, but yeah, they have just responded extremely well to, like you say, the brisket that really kind of sets the central Texas style apart from everybody else.
Absolutely. All right. So what about folks from out of town? Are you getting Are you getting folks that, because look, people go to Austin to go to Franklin Barbecue from all over the world. People go to Pecan Lodge from all over the place. Are you getting some folks that are showing up from some interesting locales?
We're actually pulling some people from, the surrounding areas, 30 minutes to an hour away, which is a big deal for us, because there's normally in this area, you don't really hear of that too often. But we are getting a lot of people from within the barbecue community. So like you said, we are kind of like in the travel corridor. A lot of people go to Florida for vacation, and we're right off the interstate, along most people's way when they are traveling through. So we do get quite a few people in the community that are stopping by.
Yeah, that's why I said, look, if you're taking, because a lot of people don't want to go through Baton Rouge and New Orleans to go to the Florida Gulf Coast. They'll go east and then down. Look, if you're going that way, stop in and get you some food, and if nothing else, just take some for the road and nibble while you're driving. It's fantastic that way. All right, look, you're on more of the craft side of barbecue, and there's kind of a fun, I don't know, maybe not, I don't know how much fun it is, but there's kind of an interesting little divide in barbecue between the folks that are doing craft stuff and the folks that are sort of, we just use salt and pepper and smoke. I'm curious, do you get any of that feedback, or when you're talking to various folks, have they been, oh, you're a craft guy, like, necessarily you're too uppity or whatever? Do you get any of that, or is it all kind of open and welcoming no matter what you're doing?
Yeah, we don't really get too much slack for, we get a little bit for not doing some of the traditional items that people are used to getting when they go to get barbecue here, but that's when we really try to explain to them, hey, this is a different style. It kind of sets us apart from other people that are here as far as barbecue. For the most part, it's been just really accepting. People are still mad at me that I don't have beans and on the menu.
Yeah.
But we are a food truck, and, I do have to cook off-site and bring it, and transportation is a mess. But maybe one day, but I know it's what the market wants, but we're not doing that, so I get a little bit of slack off of that. But as far as our more unique items and just like the brisket being prime and having to charge the premium for it, people are really understanding about that so far.
Well, that's good. Look, that's the one thing because I talked to you about coming to Shreveport. I've talked to Steven over at Riverport about coming to Shreveport. I was like, I need a Texas-style barbecue place in Shreveport that's doing it right. And all I can think about is I don't know how the people of Shreveport would react to it because it's so different from what they're used to. And so I'm honestly glad to hear that the folks in Ruston have reacted to it and been okay with it, because my first thought is, well, you go up there and it's $20 for a pound of brisket. People are going to just start balking at it. So I'm honestly glad to hear that they've been accepting of it.
Mm-hmm. And we actually started out with knowing that it was going to be such a big divide between us and the other people in town. So we actually started kind of sacrificed a little bit in the beginning as far as what we were charging to kind of get people used to, seeing that, hey, this is a different product than what you can get down the street if we're doing prime brisket and somebody else is doing, chopped beef or whatever. So we kind of let them have that, give them a taste of it, and then actually try to, bump it up to what's fair for us to be able to be in business.
So basically, like all barbecue pitmasters, you're a bit of a drug dealer, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you got to give them a little sample at first.
You give them a little something first.
And then,
Do you, by the way, do you go and because, we know a lot of barbecue places in Texas will hand out beer, or they'll have they'll give a chunk of brisket to someone while they're in line. Do you find yourself doing any of that to try to, get some folks hooked on some of the other stuff that you've got?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll throw some little samples out when we're not just too busy and we actually have some time to be able to get that fixed up for you. But especially other items that people are kind of unsure about, like maybe some of our unique sausages that we're doing. We're doing house-made sausages, which is a very unique thing for this area. And we're trying to be a little creative with it. So there's a lot of things that people haven't heard of, that they're kind of scared of trying. We'll throw a little sample out there, and most of the time they like it, and that's actually what they end up ordering.
Well, when I was there, you were doing the pork belly burnt ends, and this is when you can tell when you're dealing with a craft barbecue guy, is when it's a pork belly burnt end, but it's got the word gastrique in it somewhere. It was a pork belly burnt end with a blueberry gastrique, and I told you at the time I I took a bite and I went, oh, that's a little too sweet. I'm getting that blueberry sauce. And then as you start chewing, it's like, oh, okay, there's the balance. And it turns out to be one of the best bites that you'll ever have. I'm curious, when you start trying to kind of think of new things, because part of craft barbecue is new and unique concepts. Do you just throw stuff off on the wall and see what sticks? Like, how do you go through the process of trying to be creative and give new items that are not just, hey, here's sliced brisket and here's pork ribs?
Well, there's a lot of inspiration to be drawn, like you said about with the gas streaks. That's something that actually pulled from the Bodacious on Moberly location, and I had already experimented and tried with pork belly and tried all these different sauces, and then when I actually got to go visit and taste theirs, I said, this is what I've been trying to do. So, and like you said, with just a welcoming community, got with some of the guys over there and really helped me out. But as far as just inspiration for new items, a lot of it comes from just trying things, seeing if it sticks, and if it doesn't stick, then go back to the drawing board on it.
Are you a guy that do you like eating barbecue, or I mean, we were talking about it earlier with I was actually with Steven at the Bodacious in Hallsville earlier, and he was talking about how he's not necessarily wild about eating barbecue all the time, but he's always sampling his own stuff to make sure that it lives up to what he wants. Are you in that category where you're always sampling your stuff to make sure it's got the quality you want, or are you just like, no, I can't eat barbecue right now, I've cooked it for far too long?
No, I eat it every single day. Every single day. Just like you said, check that quality. If there was a small little tweak, if there was some temperature differences in the pit, I'm always checking to see, how did it turn out, what was different. And that's basically what I do with my time off, is I will go travel and eat other people's barbecue.
Well, that's what we did today. And finding a place that was open on Monday was a real treat as well. Talking to Andrew Caskey from Bad Wolf BBQ in Ruston. All right, so what's the future? Or do you even know at this point? Are you trying to expand? Are you just wanting to stay where you're at, a brick and mortar spot? Kind of what do you have a thought on where you want to go from here, because you're starting to see that success at your food truck spot?
So yeah, the future as of right now is to stay small for a little while. Especially in the world of post-COVID that's coming up, just trying to figure everything out with that. At least as of right now, I've done everything small, built it as I went, so everything's pretty much paid for. It's more of a stress-free environment right now.
Sure.
So I'm going to stay small, try to hone my skills, actually get into, trying to figure out more of the business side. Once you get the cooking part done, that's the easy part. Then you got to figure out how to make it a successful business. So we're going to work on this model for probably another year or two before we even think about expanding.
I got you. Well, look, brother, you're killing it over there in Ruston. Again, I've had Blue Oak in the Joint and Central Barbecue in New Orleans. I've had Smokin' Jay's in Mendon. They're doing great work over there. I've had Real Barbecue here in Shreveport. I've had what I consider to be the best barbecue places in the state, and yours is at the top for me, man. You're doing great work over there.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Andrew Caskey, enjoy yourself, man. Have a good Monday, and look, I'll be over there sooner rather than later.
All right, can't wait to see you.
All right, Andrew Caskey, pitmaster at Bad Wolf BBQ in Ruston.